So we're in the middle of the Maamar Lecha Omar Libi, and we're getting now to the part which is a little more down to earth, and that is the role of Seichel and Midos, intellect and emotions, how they interplay with each other. And I think you'll find this interesting because it's not like in classical Chabad Hasidus, we speak about cause and effect. Does anyone remember the Hebrew words for cause and effect that's used in Chabad Hasidus? Don't be bashful, don't be shy, tell me. Not you, Yonason, you learned in the Lubavitch Yeshiva, that's not fair. Moshe, is there any cause and effect?
I remember the Hebrew terms, but I don't know specific to Chabad.
Okay, not what do you know?
Well, Siba would be a cause.
That's true, but that's not the words used in Chabad. Yes, Moshe?
Elu, something like that.
What?
Elu.
Avram is on the right track. Moshe,
I can't remember.
okay, well, you got a half a point, Avram. Isra got a 0, and you got a half a point. And what does Moshe say? No.
Yeah, I remember now learning this. We learned this over the summer, I think. But I'm not recalling it.
Okay, and now we'll go to our Hasidus scholar, Rabbi Yonason. What is it? Thank you. Ila v'alul. Ila v'alul. So you were very much close, Avram. Ila means the cause. It's another word, Isser for siba. Ila v'alul is the effect, or in Hebrew, mesuvav. There's the siba and the mesuvav. Actually, in Chabad Hasidus, there's also a discussion, not often, the difference between Ila va'alul and Siba u'mesuvav, but I don't want to go that right now into that. So anyway, normally when you think about something and you understand it, you have a feeling towards it. Either you're attracted to it or you're distanced from it. So there's a correlation between Seichel, the mind, the thought, the intellect, and the alul, the result, the effect. The question is, how much of the ila is in the alul? And that's, I believe, part of what we're going to discuss now. Okay, let's look at what the Rebbe says and then we'll talk. So let's go now to page 11. Over here, it says it's like 15 lines at the top. V'akoiches pnimiyim heim hamislapshim b'kelim protiyim. Moshe asked yesterday, what's the difference? So here, Moshe is explaining what he calls not the kochos makifim, the encompassing kochos, which is pleasure and willpower, which is similar, equal throughout every part of the body, but rather the inner koiches, meaning the koiches that permeate Moshe. They have a specific place. You're not going to say, I'm the world's greatest pianist, and my intellect is in my hands, how I play the piano. It's not true. Your intellect is in your head, in your brain. And from the brain, you train yourself to use your fingers to play the piano. But intellect is not in the hands. Emotions, where are emotions? Emotions are in the heart. Have you seen someone who tries to be emotional with their head? Stay away from them. It's not real emotions. It's what we call today an actor. There are people who are very good in playing with emotions. They're very smart. So they're able to manipulate with their smarts an emotion. That's not true emotions. You know what true emotions are? Spontaneous feelings. Person who, right, who feel, but here we're not talking about that type of an emotion. Here we're talking about a siba and a masuvav. Yes, Moshe.
Okay, so question. We know classical Chabad Chassidus teaches Moach Sholet Alalev. So you're going to have emotions if you're being misbonen on a particular subject, Kadosh Baruch Hu, etc. That's going to generate emotion, but it's coming from the mind.
Right.
In other words, originally, in a sense.
Right. That's right. And I'm saying that's the classical type of emotions generated by the mind, which is the concept of ila va'olu, cause and effect. What I was saying earlier is there's another type of an emotion that kind of bypasses the mind. And that type of emotion could be very, very authentic and very much deeper, much more powerful, because it doesn't have the limitation of the mind. So when we say Moshe Moach Shalat Alalev, we're talking about in the ordinary situation. But there's a time, whether it's a ni'ila, whether it's whenever a person gets in touch with their real deep emotions, that sincerity, that tmimut, shouldn't be underestimated. Yes. Hello, whoever's on their iPhone, please. Go ahead. Moshe.
Thanks. I was going to say that when I'm painting, when I'm actually like able to focus on my artwork, and I'm working on something, sometimes there'll be like a burst of inspiration. I don't know about Avram, maybe you feel that also, but that burst of inspiration sometimes, that burst of creativity, that burst of wanting to put images, color, motion, etc. on the canvas or on the paper, whatever it is, sometimes it's like, it comes like that.
Right,
sometimes.
right, and that would be a good example.
But it's not superficial at all, though.
No.
Exactly like as you're saying. It's actually based on all of the, days and weeks and hours of work, and all of a sudden it's like.
I one word you said, I wouldn't. It's not based. Because you've already prepared. Then it's possible for a spontaneous burst of inspiration, as you called it, to come forth. You see, you've laid the groundwork. You've planted the field. Now, how much produce will come from that field? You have no idea. God can bless the agriculture, and it can give a tremendous amount, like it says in the Chumash, right? In Bereshis, Meir Sharim. Our good old Meir Sharim, 100-fold. Or it can be a disaster. That's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the same is true with us. I think I've told you, and we're getting off on a tangent. I want to get back to the text. But I've been in public speaking situations where my emotions are too much for the recipients. And then I've been in situations where the emotions are very much impactful on the recipients. So that too, in other words, Moshe, if you get a burst of energy and you decide to color something and paint something with certain colors, and then when it comes out, the recipient is not a vessel for it, they ain't buying that piece of art. It's to them, it's ugly, it's not nice, whatever. It's too overwhelming. But that doesn't. So that doesn't mean that your burst of energy was wrong. What was, you didn't assess, since you're if you're making it, wanting to sell it and wanting other people to enjoy and benefit and appreciate, you need to take into consideration their reaction. And that's already another detail, that we assess what we call the keli. We assess the outside. How will the outside be impacted by my emotions? And that is in every creative art and in every field. It's a very important aspect, because you can be best intentioned and very sincere, but you always need to assess if the makabel is ready for it. I'll give you another example, and just want to really finish with this, that, you know, when the Rebbe spoke so emphatically about Mashiach, beginning from, you know, the late 1980s till he had a stroke, right? There was a sense of Mashiach coming any day. I mean, that was the atmosphere, environment in the Chabad world. And I'm not saying it was that way in other worlds, but in the Chabad world, the Rebbe's almost weekly emphasis in every talk that he gave with about Mashiach, and not just the way he spoke about it in the 50s and 60s and 70s, but in a very different way. And here's not the place to describe that more, but, you know, it was very, I think, Eunice, and you must have been around then. It was very, very, very palpable. It was very, very palpable, the difference and urgency of his words. You know, whereas, you know, for example, he would speak more briefly and succinctly, but and always sticking on Mashiach drive and issue. So some people, you know, got carried away, and they took it to the point where we're going to start pointing at you, the Rebbe, as the Mashiach, and we're going to, you know, try to rally the world, the Jewish world, to do the same, okay? And so someone wrote to the Rebbe about this during that period, and the Rebbe said, "Ba'ofen hamitkabel," famous words. It's wonderful that you want to assist in bringing Mashiach, because that's what every Jew should do, but you have to do it in a way that the mekabel, the recipient, the people who are not Chabad and who haven't been raised this way, etc., they should understand and feel and go along with it. And if not, stop it. You're on the wrong track. So what do we see clearly? That there was a fervor. I remember I called Mashiach fervor. I had a lecture once. Mashiach fever. There was this Mashiach fever in the air, but it needs to be ba'ofen hamiskabel. And those are the Rebbe's words to his Hasidim. That's not my words. I'm not making that up. I'm in no position to make that up or to criticize, for that matter. But the Rebbe did make that statement. So anyone that tries to twist those words of the Rebbe, God bless him. I mean, you know, that's, you know, it's up to him how he would justify, one second, Moshe, justify, you know, this, what's the word I'm looking for? Forget, you know, putting aside the mekabel and just going out and doing what I need to do. And I'm saying this, the same is true. Hillel, you came a little late. We're talking about intellect and emotions, ila va'olo, cause and effect. And Moshe brought up the idea of a burst of energy, and then we're speaking about that you need to also know that the burst of energy is good for yourself, right? But when you expect others to go along with your burst of energy, you need to assess who those others are. And this is a very important point. Yes, Moshe.
I just want to clarify really briefly what you just said. Because you said about 2 minutes ago, when an artist has that burst of energy, that creativity, he's got to go with it. He's got to let that just, he's got to put it all out there. Then you guys got to do the utmost. And yes, that's for him. But he can't necessarily. That's not the stage where he's going to start controlling whether or not the people will be able to handle this stroke of purple here or not. He's got to do it. Then the next stage.
Go ahead.
The next stage is to once he's produced his work, once he's produced a series of works, what have you, it could be also a musician, etc., anybody in the creative fields, or then you take it and then you assess how do you present that? How do you, what will people be able to handle, both in terms of the presentation of the subject, and do you have to then take the actual item and you have to modify it? But that's already a second stage.
Right.
You have to modify it. People to be able to accept, receive it. Like, I'll just give an example. Like, an artist will create the original, but then when it comes time to making prints, so I would say that the print is a separate entity. It's based on the original, but the print, to make that print, you're gonna go in with a technician and fine tune colors and maybe certain elements of the piece. And then you come up with your product, your print, but it's based on the original.
Right, and I agree that initially there needs to be that inspiration and creativity, because without that, then the makabel also loses and doesn't benefit, because he doesn't see a real live individual. He sees someone who has conformed to limitations and opinions. Yeah. There's a lot more we could say about it, but let's go to the text. Okay. So now,
Rabbi Dalton, what page are we on?
we're on page 11. We're about 7-8 lines from the bottom. It's the middle of the line. It's the middle of the line. Uva oimik upnimius inyan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're welcome. Uva oimik upnimius inyan the mechamid is when we delve deeply into the inner makings of intellect and emotions. It's not only that they have an association between each other. Hello, they actually complete each other. And he explains. Proper comprehension of a matter is when it leads to a result. Ukemaimer, as the sages say, Ein chacham kibal hanisoin. We talk about being a chacham. Chazal say, Avram, who is wise? Who is a chacham? Only one that's tested himself, tested his theories, and his theories have proven to be right. He went through the nisayon. That person is the chacham. Right? I recall that I was told that when the previous Rebbe came to America, all hats were off, including from the Litvish world, and including people who, maybe didn't think of him as the greatest Torah scholar, right? Why did they take their hats off? Why did they roll the red carpet out? Because they knew that they didn't fight Stalin. They considered a piece of Gemara or go to Washington, on behalf of Judaism. Very nice, in a free country. The previous Rebbe was arrested, nearly shot to death, thrown down iron steps, on and on. Now, everything else, they said, is small change. So regardless, you are it. If you could do that, then you deserve the red carpet. Balanisoyan, talk is cheap. Very cheap. Bright people, intellectual people. Right. So that's what the Chazal said. Ein chacham kebal nisoyin. There's no one that's really a chacham like someone who went through the test himself and proved himself correct. That's a real chacham.
Rebbe.
Yeah, you gotta turn your mute off.
No, it's off. I just turned it back on. I just turned it on because I wanted to comment, if that's okay.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah, because I'm just on the way back from my dad.
Okay.
The thing is, when you're talking about this concept about the Baal Nisayan, is this the reason also on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur that the Chazan should be over 40 years old? It should be, somebody that's an elder that has Baal Nisayan.
Yes. It's one of the reasons that the person who's leading the congregation isn't just because he has a beautiful voice and is knowledgeable, whatever, but he lived through the experience. Absolutely, that's definitely one of the. I'll give you another example, Yoni. I remember there was a Yid from Yerushalayim in our shul, and he was from the elderly people in shul, and we asked him to read Kinnas Tisha B'Av, to read Eicha, and Kinnas the next day. Why? Because we are, like my wife said, the Australian, the Russian Hasidim would call the Americans chokolatknius. Chocolate, they like chocolate. Chokolatknius. You're a chassid with a beard and payas and a yarmulke and you learn chassidus, but at the end of the day, you like chocolate, right? Here's chassidim who were, they paid their dues. Their parents were shot, etc., etc. So you're gonna tell me that so here is Tisha B'Av, and we're supposed to be mourning the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and we in Brooklyn or Chicago or wherever we are, and the sun is out, and the pool is beautiful, and the beach is great, right? And the beer is delicious, right? And we're celebrating Tisha B'Av. But someone who lived in Yerushalayim in the 1940s and 30s and 40s and saw what took place and walked with his bags out when the Jordanians forced us out, and then the war and on, we all felt like this is a person, if anyone, that can really feel the mourning of the Beis Hamikdash. So we find this concept. Let's continue. V'hashleimus b'midos, the completion of midos, of emotions, it is intellect that makes midos, emotions, complete. This is the overall difference between human emotions and animal-like emotions, or an animal's emotions. The Bali Chayim animals, hem gamkim bali midos. They also have emotions. Va'adarab, on the contrary, hem bali midos be'etzem uhusam. Their emotions are their core essence, right? The nesher rachmani. An eagle is merciful. Va'oirev, and a raven achzari is cruel. Those are two tendencies as we see in these type of birds. Avol he midas tivian. Nevertheless, the midas of Bali Chayim are natural to the animal. Conversely, avol midas b'nei adam, human midas, hey malpi seichel dafke. This is what Moshe alluded to earlier. They are specifically right when they're driven and guided by intellect. Look at this line. This is who bederach ilav olol. Underline it, Moshe. This is what it says. And therefore, the revelation, hagilui, min haseichel, from the mind to the emotions, is in a manner that we call cause and effect. Ilav olol. The zeu hahefresh, top of next page, 12. The zeu hahefresh kloli. This is the overall difference between the way willpower impacts the mind and the way the way the intellect impacts the emotions. And he explains. The hagilui v'hamshocha min harotzen el haseichel. the way willpower impacts the mind, hu b'derech hischatshus. It's what we call in a new way. I'll explain in a moment. Hischatshut from the word chadash. Whereas hagili v'amshochem and asech lamidis, the way intellect impacts the emotions, hu b'derech ilavol, it's a way of cause and effect. And generally speaking, the way cause and effect works is that it comes automatically. Okay. What does it mean something comes automatically? It means that the effect, the alul, is ready and waiting for it to receive direction. The emotions want guidance. Give us guidance. So when the cause, the ila, sends its message, its inspiration to the midos, it's like a glove fitting on a hand very nicely. It fits very nicely. Because the midah expects moichin, the mind, to give a direction, and the mind enjoys its intellect being accessed in the midah, in the emotion. What about willpower? Ratzain, which is willpower. Ratzain overwhelms. Do it my way, or it's the highway. Willpower. So willpower doesn't negotiate with the midah. It says, hey guy, you better listen to me. If not, you'll be in big trouble. So from the seichel, from the mind's perspective, I don't understand it this way. If I don't understand something a certain way, I don't want to do it. And nevertheless, willpower drives you to do it anyway. What does that mean? That willpower breaks the mind. It shatters the mind. The mind is not a vessel for willpower. It's just a funnel for willpower. And this is why the Rebbe says here the word, it's b'derech hischatshut. It's new. It's not expected. It's a chidush. You know, when I was building, I was our shul in Marin County, and we had very big opposition from the neighbors, and we had a lawsuit. I've told you about that over the years. So, you know, it was our and mine willpower to have a Chabad house, a shul, an institution of Torah. And I tried negotiating with them. I tried using intellect and negotiating and dialogue, and it didn't work. So I had to go into willpower mode, and it cracked them. And the result was they took the county to a lawsuit, and we won because the willpower was sanctioned by Hashem in that case. But if you think about it, why did it break them? Because they were scared. What we call in America xenophobia. You know, they never saw this, they never saw this, they never saw people wearing coats when it's 95 degrees outside and everyone's in sandals and shorts. You know, it's like, where'd you land from? You know, and this wasn't Brooklyn or Chicago. This is Marin County, California, capital of heathenism, as we discussed in the past. So there was a shviras hakeli, a breaking of the vessel to the recipients. But in that situation, we felt that we tried the good way, and you're not willing to play ball. So we have to go with America to use our willpower and go for broke. And we did. And Baruch Hashem, we were matzliach. My point is like this, that it's a chidush. And when there's a chidush, people are scared of new things. People don't know how to handle new things. They're fearful of the unknown. Ratzon, willpower, from the perspective of the mind, is unknown. What the mind understands is, 1 + 1 = 2. Do this first, do this second, and all that. But when you come in going for the top, going for broke, and you say that's the way it is. There's no, the mind does not handle it. That's why the Rebbe says here that the way Ratzon, willpower, impacts the mind is in a way of chidush, a novelty, whereas the way the mind impacts the emotions is cause and effect. Cause and effect is to be expected. I want to make sure that you understand this difference, so please tell me if you have questions on it. Now is the time. Yes, Moshe.
Sheldon, can you just go over what you just said, the summation you just did?
The summation is that.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do it? Go ahead.
No, I'm asking for you to do it.
Okay. I don't want to repeat. I want to be a summation. So basically, Ratzon, willpower, overpowers, shatters the mind and says, I don't care what you say. You do understand. You don't understand. You're doing this way. Willpower. So from the mind's perspective, that's a chidush. It's new. It's a novelty. It's like, come on. You didn't negotiate with me. You didn't discuss it with me. So that's why he uses the words in the Maamar that the impact of Ratzon on the mind is b'derech hischatshut. Then he says, conversely, the way the mind impacts the emotions, right? So we're comparing willpower to the mind. Willpower's impact on the mind, and we're comparing it to the mind's impact on the emotions. And he's saying that the mind's impact on the emotions is to be expected. In other words, the first one, Moshe, to put it succinctly, is not expected. That's a chidush. What's not expected? Not expected is that we had 100 people at the shir. If we had 100 people on the shir now, we would all say it's unexpected. It's not that like, we spoke to 100 people and they all got excited. No, somehow it happened. It's a chidush. But the system of the relationship between mind and heart, mind and emotions, he says is b'derech memela, is automatically. It's expected. You can expect an emotion coming after you use your mind to understand something. Everyone else understand what this means? Yeah? Any other questions? What time is it now?
3:17.
Yeah. Okay, so we're holding at Ois Gimel, and tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, we will learn Ois Gimel, and we're on a good track to finish the Maamar, and maybe even learn a little more for something for Rosh Hashanah. So yesterday we had, Baruch Hashem, the first day in North Miami Beach in the Chabad Shul Beis Menachem. We had 6 people, but people who eat. There was 3 chavrusas. So I gave them a shir, and then they learned Shulchan Aruch together, and we'll see. But what I found surprising is that after Shachris, there was no one left to shul. It was, I don't want to use the German word, but it was like rain, clean, cleansed. My idea of putting it there was there'll be a spillover from Chakras and maybe some people will come and join. There was no one to talk to.
Where's the food?
I don't know. You're right. And that community is, they're very disciplined, very, very disciplined, and the rabbi and the shul didn't want to, they're friendly. They said, you want to learn Torah and teach Torah, no problem, but they can't get involved right now. So, to start bringing in food right now would throw them off, So, no, but it's a younger community, and everyone, by 9 o'clock, between carpooling their kids to yeshiva and girls' school and going to work. It's whatever. I'm just saying, every community and every shul has its its thing. But Baruch Hashem, those that came and learned benefited. Then there was actually a group of 3 young guys. They have a program like Aliyah. They have the program Aliyah in Crown Heights. Guys that didn't continue in yeshiva, and they struggled in different ways, and so they made a whole center for them. They brought a lot of kids and people back to Torah. So they did a similar thing in Miami, in North Miami, and some of them came, and they want me to bring with them for Chayelu. So maybe they, to get these guys out of bed at 9:30 is like miraculous. Anyway, Chevra, have a great day. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care. Shalom.
Yes.
Bye.